Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Anthony Wheeler. Jake, what has you so upset this morning, afternoon, evening, and
you know what's grinding my grits right now is...
It's not a shade.
No.
It's not a shade. You don't grind your grits. You grind your gears.
Okay.
There's no grit grinding going on here.
We're leaving it in. We're leaving it in. Welcome to a live podcast, everybody. Nothing's getting edited.
The three of us are the grit grinders.
The thing that grinds my grit. Okay, we were just talking about before the show started, because we've got a live audience here. We've got the who's who of SVSLEARN community here joining us today. And we were just talking about Will Terry, who's going to be joining us on the podcast next month to kind of give us an update on what he's been doing. And to give you the TLDR on what Will's doing right now is he's selling a metric ton of card games at Christmas time. And we were just like, well, I wonder how much he's spending on Facebook ads to sell all those. And he'll get into the details of all that. But the thing that really gets those grits in my gear grinding machine, I was listening to, so Brandon Sanderson, the most well-known fantasy author right now after like JK. We'll put him, he's up there with Terry Pratchett and the Game of Thrones guy. What's that guy's name again?
Don't tell him.
Stein?
Yep,
No.
Don't tell him. I want you to suffer.
George R.R. Martin.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know why Brandon Sanderson doesn't have an R.R. in the middle of his name.
To go with Tolkien and
Sanderson, J.R.R. Tolkien. I heard that the R.R. in Tolkien stands for Jokin, Rolkin, Tolkien. Anyways, that's a dumb joke. But here we go. Brandon Sanderson, super successful fantasy writer, and giving these free lectures at BYU, which are then posted on YouTube. And they are just a magnificent resource for, it'd be like, I'm not putting, he has his critics, right? And there's some people who think he's a hack and some people who think he is the greatest fantasy writer ever. I put him somewhere in the middle there. He's definitely super accomplished. And I think it'd be like if J.R.R. Tolkien, who was a professor, you had access to some of his lectures. How cool would that be to just hear him talking about how he writes fantasy, right? And I don't want to put anybody on the level of J.R.R. Tolkien, but still, 50 years from now, people are going to look back and be like, what an amazing resource we have here with this. So there's that, right? And I quite enjoy his books as well. I think they're a lot of fun. But the lecture that really caught my attention was he gave this overview of like the history of publishing and how publishing currently works. And he got into this one part where he was talking about like independent writers who are just, there was like this boom of writers, independent writers, indie writers, publishers who were being able to essentially compete with the major publishers in selling ebooks of their books, right? And everybody sort of caught on to that, and now it's super competitive. And so now, in order to be successful in that, is you have to front load your release with like 3 books. So you have to not just release one book and say, okay, I'll have another one next year, but have 3 already written and release them like 2 months apart from each other, right? And 2, you have to pay for advertising, okay? And it was like a little aside, but he said, I know successful independent authors who are spending $500,000 a year on Facebook or Facebook, YouTube, Amazon ads, I don't know, whatever ads they're spending money on to make $50,000 in profit. And that just doesn't sit well with me. That essentially the big winner here is the platform, right?
Oh,
The
one.
platform that's just like, and going back to
Yep.
Will, how who knows how much he's spending on ads to sell a certain amount of games. And for any of us who want to be sort of independent and do the work that we're going to do, you're still going to make, if you have a good product and you're willing to, you have the money to put into it, you'll make that money back.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, it just doesn't sit well with me that uh, 500 or $1 million kind of flows through the marketplace, and 100,000, 10% of that comes to the actual creator, and 90% of that goes to just the person who is advertising it. And I don't know how to fix that. And I don't know. That just, like I was saying, it grinds my grits.
Well, self-publishing takes care of that, but then it opens up a whole other can of worms too. So
What
Yeah.
takes care of it?
self-publishing.
That's to self-publish.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
This is to self-publish. What I'm
Yeah.
talking about. This is independent authors who have a book for sale. In order to get it in front of the right amount of eyes that you can make a sustainable living, you have to spend that much money in ads. It's the same with Launch Boom and running a Kickstarter,
Yeah.
right? Like,
it's
there's
true.
just so
And the
much you have to
one
spend.
side of that we've been chatting about lately is if you're making your own stuff. It's like, say you do that whole thing, you get your 10%, and it goes huge, and you make your 100,000 or whatever, and then you want to do something else. Well, you got to pay for that one front loaded. So when do you make money? That was my question to Will and Jake when we were talking about all this stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
at some point you have to actually be able to keep it. You can't just be getting it and moving it
Right.
to the next thing.
Here, let me. So I'll put a little bit of a bow on that because I'm actually going through that right now. But my numbers are sort of much more for the audience who's just trying to get up and running.
Yeah.
So we have the chaotic draw along. We've sold a couple thousand decks, prompt card decks over the last year and a half. I just got another 2,000 units. We took a huge chunk out of these new units in sales and Amazon sales, and things are going really well. For the last 15 days, we ran a $1,500 Facebook Meta ad strategy. I want to spend like $3,000 to $4,000 a month for ads. And generally, outside of the holiday season, I can get anywhere from like a 1.5 to a 1.75 return. Holiday season's really hard though, because just like everybody else, they're competing for ad space. So all the big companies, Ford, GM, why am I just naming car companies? They're also bidding for the same ad space.
Mhm.
And so the ad space becomes more expensive, and then it goes to less eyeballs. So in that first $1,500 that I spent, we basically got a 1-to-1 return on it. And that was kind of hard to stomach. Some of that is that the big platforms like Meta and Facebook, which is the same, but they have to train the ads to the audience to get you then the analytics of who to serve and how to serve it. And so that first couple of weeks, honestly, is them calibrating. It's also them just putting money in their pockets. The next phase of this next couple of weeks, we then go from $1,500 to $3,000 of ad spend on Meta. And I think we're like $500 or $600 into that ad spend, and we've doubled that revenue back from that. And so we're now past the training phase. We're now starting to eke into relatively okay profit. The thing that we underestimate, though, is that there's a lot of people who have ad blockers who don't even see these things. There's also the ads then will get pushed. Somebody who sees an ad over on Facebook or Instagram, they'll then go check over on Amazon to see if it's available. And so that ad might convert a sale over to Amazon, and we just don't get credit for it based on that ad. And so that ecosystem, it's kind of hard to fully metabolize and understand sometimes. But like my full strategy over the course of this 30-day period is a $6,000 ad spend. And the hope is that we 1.5 total.
So you
just because it's so
$6,000
for a $9,000 return.
and you'll make how much? 9,000?
Yeah, so we'll do 3,000 profit.
3,000 profit.
That's the goal, just from that set of ads. Now, over on Amazon, which I think is a capitalist hellhole, sorry. So we spent $200 in ads over there, and we got a 3x return So we got $600 in return over there on a $200 ad spend. And that was in gross revenue. So it's much easier on the world's biggest platform of shopping to get sales for product. But outside of that, they take a big cut naturally, because they're also bringing you a much bigger marketplace and a much more captive audience, and they're putting much more money behind advertising for their platform in total. So, you get more profit chopped off the top of it. So I've ultimately made more money not having advertisements on Amazon, and those sales just flow in. And that has proven to be great for us. So the Meta Facebook stuff, the Google ads, we get a nice return, but then the Amazon stuff just helps. It's like all the icing on top of the cake, or the icing on top of your grits, Jake, after we've
Great. I'm
grinded them.
glad we got
Great
some
grinder.
icing on those now.
Yeah, it stinks, right? And like, if you want to play the game, you have to play the game. And it used to be like when Jake and I were really building our social media followings, and followers used to be a big deal. You didn't have to mess with any of this stuff, because the social media companies served everything that you made to every single person who followed your accounts.
Yeah.
And that was glorious. Now it's more of like an interest economy. There's much more, the algorithm is serving what they think people might like. People aren't following accounts.
Well, and they're
swiping.
throttling it too, just
Yeah, they
because if it gets to them free, then how can they make money from ads? And so
That's right.
And I don't know if you guys know Hank Green on one of the Vlog Brothers, right?
Yeah.
He was just ranting about this, how he was like, the way the algorithm works these days is it's like enragement sells, like that really gets going. And so he was running a sale for his charity store. Like every sale in the store goes to charity. And he did a post on Twitter or wherever, and it got, this is a guy with, I don't know, millions of followers.
2.8 million on YouTube, 2.2 on Instagram, and
Right.
probably triple that. No, 1 million over on X.
Yeah. And the particular thing he posted about, hey, check out the shop. We've got a bunch of good products. Everything goes to this charity that we're doing. It gets 100 likes. A couple. So he's like, well, what do I do? How do I get this message out there? Because obviously this isn't working. Like what you're saying, that worked 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. But now. So what he did was he went and looked for tweets or posts that were misleading, like an AI. There's a video at it looks like it's at a Japanese tech show, and a guy sticks his foot in this bucket thing, this high-tech bucket, and it stitches a shoe onto his foot. And it looks really cool, but it doesn't exist because it's AI, right? But it looks real. And everybody's like, man, the Japanese they're blowing us away in technology. This is amazing. And he replies and he says, something like, as cool as this looks, it's AI, and really you should be ashamed. It's AI, and you're just click farming. And if you don't want to, do that, you can come to my store and buy this stuff, right? That particular response of him calling out this other thing gets all these upvotes because people are like enraged, like, yeah, look at this. Oh, I didn't know, I was fooled. Oh, I'm upset. And now he's getting thousands of likes and retweets for that. So he's like, well, that works. So then he spent an afternoon doing that on 50 posts. Yeah. Right.
Wow.
Which in turn amplifies those posts exposure, which kind of makes the problem worse in a way, but it still gets more eyeballs on his thing. And his whole thing is like, it's broken. And I think that's where my head's at right now is I do not like my online experience half the time. The other half of the time, I quite enjoy it because I'll listen to an hour-long video of Brandon Sanderson telling me about the publishing world, right? So I don't know what to do.
Speaking of like good online,
I thought that was going to end up with a lot more usable junk, but you're like, yeah, everything's broken, whatever. I don't like it.
You know what we should do though is like we should take all of like Jake's misfires on his quotes, like the whole grinding your grits, and we should make rage bait videos out of that, Lee, for you and I to sell our holiday products.
There you go.
I
Oh
would.
my
There's
gosh.
the takeaway.
That
So
would
I'll
be
tell you, I did have an interesting. Well, I guess I'm still in the midst of it, but it'll be winding down soon. My holiday sales stuff. I decided to not do anything, no ads, no nothing, and I just posted on social like I did used to a long time ago, and we did quite well.
Wow.
We sold about 500 cards.
How
So
many sales would you say? Like, how many orders do you have to fulfill?
It comes in. It's probably 5 to 10 card orders per day, and each one of those orders might be anywhere from 6 cards to 36.
How long are you going to be fulfilling cards for?
I mean, it goes year round, but this is obviously the busy season. Valentine's Day ramps up a little bit. Yeah, so it just
So all you got to do is make some really cool looking cards, and then people buy them.
that's what I'm doing. I'm not spending any more on ads. It doesn't. It just, like Anthony was saying, it takes so much, and I don't end up with enough because I had to pay for the cards to be printed and the
Yeah.
packaging to
You
sell.
didn't send out an email to your list?
Oh my gosh, my list. I never send out an email. I always mean to, though. Does that count?
Yeah,
Thankfully,
no, it
that's
does
the
definitely
lowest
count.
hanging fruit.
I'll
don't
tell
know
you
what to
though,
do.
all those emails, they just go to spam now. Like every marketing email, even from people that I like,
Right,
they just
right.
go to,
It just that's how exactly how it feels, Anthony. And the one thing that I would do different though that ended up cost us money is I do have the ability, or somebody that buys from me has the ability to buy one card, and that is people will buy a $5 card, which then costs $5 to ship.
yeah.
I can't believe anybody does that, but they do, and it takes actually more time for us to do that card than we make. So
Sometimes
Yeah.
you just need one thing though. Can I make an observation though about you and social media this last 6 months?
sure.
Yes.
You have been posting regularly, and you've also let the audience that you have, and I'm just going to talk about Instagram, but you've been letting that audience also into your personal life. You've been talking about your trip to Japan. You've been talking about your trip to Spain. You've been bringing people into that experience, but you've also been posting on a very frequent basis.
True.
And I think the other thing that builds a lot of trust and respect out of people is you're also not playing a bunch of games. Like you're not doing all the rage bait, clickbait stuff. You're not goofing around. You're having fun, but you're just posting. You're just being a normal dude.
It's
And
true. It's just
it's-
pretty consistent. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
I
grade
think
do
it-
you give him, Anthony?
I think it's like a C plus, B minus, and I'm giving myself a D plus right now.
Mhm.
But I think if he posted every single day, and then I think and this goes across all of his social media platforms and just planned all that stuff out, but it's hard for us ADHDers. And then also if you had story posts every single day with your cards and your product, so that stuff was always top of mind, top of feed, I think you'd probably, without having to do a whole lot of extra effort, you'd probably triple, quadruple your sales.
Right. You're probably right, but
But it's hard. We have no extra time, right?
I mean, yeah, because I'm making the work. That takes a ton of time. I'm writing new stories because I want to do that and make something bigger than just singular images. And then you got to plan out this social thing. I just don't. I'm out of time.
Yeah.
And I love making the work so much. I'm making so much work. I've made more work in the last year probably than I have in the previous 10 years.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's because
Do you
he's
think-
unemployed.
Yeah, because you're not chasing like a picture book dummy. Like I know you're developing things, but you're not chasing like a
That's stuff
publisher.
that pulls you underwater. Yeah, where you're like deep, like Jake was with the dark wing fire of the stalker.
Yeah. I want
You're like the weirdest friend of all time, aren't you? Like you don't know where the guy lives. You don't know if the state he lives in has snow. You don't know the name of his book. You didn't even know he was doing a book for like 8 months.
Even though we had multiple conversations about it.
Don't remember. Barely pay attention to anything.
I want to share some wins. Okay.
Go for it.
I want to share some wins from the community here, and I'm going to share my screen here. Let me hit a little refresh on this, and we will get it going. So in the community, we have a section where people can share what they've been up to and share a win. And Catherine Jackman posted this, another happy dance, hopefully to inspire you. And you can see here, she's like, I really wanted to share with you another piece of exciting news that I've sat on for ages. I don't know how I've managed to keep it in, but I'm sharing this to inspire you to take a chance on yourself too, and to essentially um, cut to the chase here. She submitted a design to a Hallmark like design contest, essentially, or competition, I guess is what it was.
Not a small company.
Yes, Hallmark. And her design got
heard of them.
picked to be used for, they're making an actual greeting card for it. And if you look on the screen here, you can see it is a couple of stars with, it's a graduation card. So it's stars at night. They're super cute. They have little graduation caps on, and it says, thank you for helping me shine. And Hallmark says, Catherine is a children's illustrator and author based in Northwest England. She delights in bringing ideas to life through vibrant illustrations and imaginative stories, creating worlds full of kindness, whimsy, and warmth. Inspired by nature and childhood, her work delights little ones and grown-ups who cherish the outdoors and joy of storytelling, which I think is such a nice little blurb about her. Great art, and I just want to give her a huge high five for this win that she.
Does this become a card now that it's won the thing?
So what she said here was,
she's now your direct competition, Lee, and we might have to.
I'm gonna have to remove her from the community.
She says, this is huge for me. I cried when I found out I won. My first job was working in a card shop, and this was a dream come true. For once, I ignored my inner monkey telling me I wasn't good enough to enter, and it's the amazing outcome. I've actually got my name and design in print on a Hallmark card. The card will be available for sale next year. I can't believe it. So yeah, good job.
Amazing.
That's rad.
And I just wanted to say too, like, one of her things she said was, if you see a competition with good terms and conditions, go for it. You never know what might happen next.
Yeah.
And so I think
like
that's
competitions.
that's the key there is read the rules, read the, see who's going to own whatever image and what the terms are for it. But then this is a great way to kind of get yourself noticed. And I know everyone's like, don't get paid in exposure, but gosh, sometimes
you got to have something though. I mean, I think the first step is the exposure, and then then that becomes a negotiable thing after that. But with that, if you're not in front of people, there is no step two. If people don't know you exist.
You just got to live and have fun, Do
your thing. Well, congratulations to Catherine.
The next thing I want to share, another win, is Mag she's a OG SVS community person, has her first children's book, Mike the Magical Coughing Cat.
Oh, that is so cute.
It's adorable.
Yeah, absolutely adorable. She got a lovely Kirkus review for it as well.
Oh, that's not easy.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. That's not easy. Who's I wonder who the publisher is.
Let's see here. Free
preview. While we're pulling this up, there is a lurker in the chat. Somebody named Samantha Cotterill. I don't know if we need to kick her out. Hey, Sam. Hey, for those of you guys, just while Jake's pulling this up, Sam and I are talking about this. I'm definitely going to SCBWI New York. If anybody wants to hang out in person, we're going to be doing stuff. Samantha may be joining me as well. We're still chatting about it. So let me know. When does this podcast come out, Jake?
In 2 weeks.
Oh, good. So yeah, it'll be the SCBWI is January 16th, 17th, and 18th. So join us in New York City.
Union Square Kids is the publisher.
Very cool. And it published the day, was that the same day that Darkwing published?
Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing, Stalker of Fire.
Wings of Fire. Yeah, November 4th, same day.
Same day. I remember the date.
Darkstalker.
I also love that this is a bit, but it's also not a bit, but it will be a bit forever.
Okay. There's 400 versions of Jake's book cover that I can reword those.
So the publishing world is really slow, Mag says. By the time your book comes out, you've already moved on to something completely different. I love this little guy the most, but I've been nose deep in new projects for months, so it kind of slipped my mind for a bit. Anyway, if you'd be so kind as to buy, say, a few 100 copies, that would mean a lot. So it got a good Kirkus review, so it must be a decent book. So do check it out. Type in Mike the Magical Coughing Cat, and
I'm curious to see where she goes with that story.
yeah, I'm curious too. It'll be cool.
There's got to be a coughing dog follow-up. There's just got to be.
And then the last win I want to share is my own personal win, and that was that Darkstalker made the New York Times bestseller list. It's number 2 on the list this week.
Pretty good.
Like as of right now, this minute, it's number 2.
Yep.
Wow.
And graphic books and manga, it's a monthly list, so it's going to be up there like this for a month.
Ooh.
That is so cool.
That's got to feel good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And it's making the other seller list. But I just want to point out the hot tip here to get on this list is have a dragon on the cover and the words "Wings of Fire" also on the cover of your graphic novel, and you'll make the bestseller list.
Like you think that's the secret recipe?
It's the secret recipe. I don't know why.
I got a hypothetical recipe for you guys. So we watched that movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I can't remember the actual title of it, but it's true documentary about these. It's not a documentary, but it's based on a true story where these couple bought all the lottery tickets and they sort of gamed the lottery, right? And they won a bunch, and they were eventually caught, I think, or something. I don't think that's against the law. They just gamed it. So my question is, if I had a book published like Mag's book, if she bought all those books, all of them, and moved it up to the bestseller list, and then they do the reprint, would that be success begets success, right? Because then you're on the list.
Well, that's okay. So I've done a little research on the New York Times bestseller list. There was actually a guy in the 90s who had this plan, and he pulled it off. And his whole thing was to essentially order 10,000 copies of his own book because he figured out that was the threshold to get on the list, right?
Okay. I'm so interested in this.
Yeah. How did Brandon Sanderson get all of that money to buy those books?
Yeah. So what happened was he figured out how to do it. He gamed the system, and the New York Times didn't post his book on the New York Times list because they cited it as it's not them reporting the news. It's an editorial choice, the list that they make. And it went to court. He sued him. He's like, no. And he sued him, which was probably great advertisement for his book, right?
Yeah.
And the court won in favor of the New York Times that says, no, the New York Times bestseller list is an editorial piece of work, and they have full right to decide what books go on there. Because the way that they do it is they record the sales from a secret list of bookstores across the country. And we don't know if it's all the Barnes and Nobles. We don't know if it's a mix of indie bookstores and Barnes and Nobles. We don't know if it's Targets and Walmarts and the big box stores. We don't know what this list is, right? So they keep that a secret so that people can't really game it. And then they want to have the list also reflect sort of their tastes to a degree. So they don't want a list that has 27 ways to do push-ups because for some reason in January that just sold a ton for like people trying to get in fit. They want it to be more literary, and they want it to be more reflective of what culture is embracing, not just the get rich quick type of books that are out there. Amazon, on the other hand, anything and everything goes on that top 100 list. You go to that list and you're going to get Dan Brown's next big thriller right next to Turkey Lurkey's Christmas special, right? The turkey that survived Thanksgiving, what he does for Christmas. Oh, my wife's calling me. Hold on one second. It might be emergency. I'm going to mute myself. All right. Take a question from the crowd.
Well, I've got a new plan while Jake's gone.
I'm excited for this.
So we've got it's the circle. It's the community plan, really, is that I buy all of Anthony's books, move it up to the front. You buy all my books, and then one of us buys all Jake's. It's just a circle.
Yep.
Each buy each other's books. That way, it's not gamed.
Well, we need tax write-offs is what we need here in America. We need tax write-offs. So, I mean, it seems like a good plan, right?
I don't mind it.
I
Um,
don't mind it.
I'm curious. So in the end of the
I'll be
day,
right back. I got to go do something. I'll be back in like a minute.
okay. Did that guy end up successful because of this mission that was exposed and scandalized in New York Times bestseller? Does anybody remember which book that was for the people in the
Mm,
community? I'd like to go back and look at that. That's a super interesting idea. I mean, if you think about it, it's like, oh, it's a scandal, but who can blame him? He's like, that's like the most belief in yourself it could ever be. Like
yeah.
you invested in yourself in the hugest way. Um, and it wasn't necessarily illegal. Unethical, it's gray area there.
It's gray area, right? And there's a story from a couple of years ago where there was an actress who was getting some acclaim for one of the movies that she was in. Super indie production. She was a known actress, but not a huge name. And the movie studio and her really did a big marketing campaign to get her an Oscar nomination. And how those Oscar nominations typically happen is through award season campaigns, and there's lots of behind backdoor sort of stuff. And ultimately, she got a nomination. There was a lot of people that were really grumpy about it, and whether that was right or wrong, who cares? But it brought so much attention to her movie because she was one of the top 5 actresses for that year, and it probably brought some reform back to the Academy Awards. But it's just how it goes.
That is crazy. That's crazy. All right, so we do have some Q&A in the Q&A. So let's
Mhm.
go ahead and dive into that so we don't just babble the whole time. Alice asks, where do you get the cards printed? I'm assuming she's directing that at me. I'm not sponsored by any printing press or any company for this, so I don't want you guys to think that this is like an ad for them. But I've been very happy with smartpress.com. And the reason that I like them so much, I'll give you 2 reasons, actually. The first reason is you have almost an unlimited, not unlimited, but a huge choice of paper, which paper you're going to use, and whether it's recycled, whether it's white or cream colored or even dark, and you print on top with a white. There's just so many different variations of laminates and mats and satins and all that stuff. So you can get the exact card that you want from Smart Press, and so I've really enjoyed that. The cards do come pre-folded. Do not make the mistake, if anybody wants to get into the card game, do not make the mistake of getting one that is not pre-folded.
Oh, it's the worst.
It takes more time than you think to fold a stupid card because it's perforated, but it's not folded. But then a lot of times the perforation's not right and you don't get it. It's just off. And so all of a sudden it's at an angle or whatever. And we were trimming cards, everyone, when we used to do that. But Smart Press, you can get them already folded. So definitely get them folded. The other thing is we just did a big card order for this big group at Christmas. And for the first time in like 5 years, it just came back strangely too light. First time in my whole life experience where you get a printed product and it's not too dark. Yeah, just the overall value was too light. And normally if there's a mistake, it leans dark. And so this was just odd that it was too light. And so I was like, man, I feel bad because it was a lot of cards. And I wrote him and I said, hey, I don't know what I'm looking for here, but I just want to tell you this order was too light. And the reason that it makes a difference for me is because I sometimes supply stores that sell cards. And it's weird if I send them 50 cards that don't match the cards that they already have in stock. That's the only thing. And so I told them that. I was like, it's just kind of weird. I wasn't trying to gripe too much. They're like, hold on. And they immediately printed every single one again and sent them my way free, overnighted. I didn't ask for that. And that was just the most amazing thing. And by the way, this is a lesson on community service. If somebody has a problem, that's how I treat somebody who has a problem with anything that I do as well. Like if something happens, I'm like, here's a new one. Don't even sweat it. That is the way to handle it. And it works. And so I like them a lot.
Yeah, and you also said too that their shipping is super fast. I mean, it's like under a week for the most part.
Oh yeah, if you order on Monday, you'll get them by Friday, and that's with normal shipping for the most part. Depending on, of course, if you're way out at the edge of the country, it might be one more day, but whatever.
Yeah, that's really cool. Real quick before we go to the next question, I want to go back to this Wings of Fire, right? That's the name of this book that you've made. So I just looked on Amazon. So right now, out of the top 100, that book is number 80, which is that's all the books, right?
Right.
That's
Everything.
It's also number one in children's fairy tales, folklore, legends, and mythology comics and graphic novels. That's a specific category.
Yeah.
But then it's also number one in children's fantasy comics and graphic novels. That's a much wider one. And then number two in children's action and adventure comics.
Mhm.
Like that's
It's shredding.
that's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's pretty cool.
Jake just came in with it. For those of you guys who are listening on in your car or wherever, Jake just came in with a big cake. What's the cake about?
Yeah.
My wife called and she's like, "Hey, the neighbor, it's a surprise ice cream cake for her daughter's birthday, and they need a place to like hide it." And so we have a freezer in our garage, and she's like, "We just go grab it and stick it in the freezer so it doesn't melt really quick." Because my wife's at swim practice with my son.
That's
So
not
she can
nearly
do
as interesting as I thought it was going to be. You can't even eat it.
I know. She
That's
handed
all.
it to me and she's like, "Thank you so much." And I was like, "Wait, so I can't eat this?" And she's like, "No."
No.
Next question.
All right.
How about, I wanted to ask you though too, just considering we're on the topic of Wings of Fire. So
Yes.
what's the reaction been from the publisher, and how are they feeling like sales are going just within a week or two of the launch?
They are pretty happy, I think, with it. Here's the thing. And I don't want to speak for them, but
Yeah.
they also publish Dogman. So I'm sure they're like, oh, look at Darkstalker doing its best, almost there at the top.
Dude, but they're owning the entire list basically with those two titles.
Yeah, I mean, they're Scholastic is in a good spot right now as far as that age group of graphic novels. So
because Dogman, just in relation, is number 4 in books out of the top 100.
yeah, and on the New York Times, it's number 1 and number 3, and Darkstalker is right in the middle there. The only other sort of thing that's giving them like a run for their money is the Warriors books. I tell you, there's something about picking an animal and doing multiple books about these animals and their secret lives and what's going on in that animal world. So you've got cats, you got dragons, there's the dog one, there's big cats like lions and tigers and stuff. There's books for all these different kinds of animals, which is it's kind of cool. So it's its own little genre. It's like animal fantasy, I think.
Lee, what animal would you choose for a book?
Hedgehog, porcupine.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Actually, you would draw a really good porcupine. Darn it!
I would love to do a story.
Honestly, I've been telling Lee he should try doing comics with his style. He could bust out pages super fast. It's just I think you get like scared at having to do 150 pages.
I do. That is real.
Would he not be the most perfect illustrator for First Second out of New
Yes.
York? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
What is
like
that?
that's where all the stories you come up with they'd live in that graphic novel age range, and your style
It's
would
true.
be
I mean,
so
that's my big
different
crit.
from whatever anybody else is doing that I think you could really carve out a nice little niche for yourself.
All right, I'm game. I'll do a couple pages. For real.
Okay. If you need help with that, go take Graphic Novel Pro because
What is Graphic Novel Pro?
What is it? It's a 10-week. That was good. It's a 10-week course all about
segue was
graphic
amazing.
novels that is launching in January on the 14th. Card opens. We already did a little opening registration for Black Friday, which we got about 25 people signed up for that. So
Awesome.
yeah, we're on a good start. Speaking of graphic novels, I want to take Mabel's legit question. You guys cool with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so she says, my dream is to make my own comic/graphic novels, which I know is a long-term, slow build thing. I still need to make money in the meantime. Would it be smart to make a portfolio of illustrations, not comic related, to get work in the art field and not at my current soul-crushing job? Okay, Anthony, you got thoughts. I got thoughts. I'll go first if you want to think about it some more. I know Lee's got thoughts.
I have no thoughts.
Okay, Lee doesn't have any thoughts.
You go first. I do have a lot of thoughts.
Okay. I would say I kind of say stay in your lane. art wise, and just be that person that does that thing, and you'll find the most success doing that. And if your soul crushing job doesn't leave anything left over for creativity, then I would seriously start looking for, if this is something you really want to do, I would start looking for another job that either gives you more time or gives you more headspace to do your work.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is a more long-term strategy. And I would set up a schedule right now that um, that you would try to do at least 2 hours on your graphic novel 5 days a week, and just think about little mini baby steps, and you will be amazed, astonished at how much you get done at the end of the year just by doing these little mini baby steps. And then the last thing I want to say to that is, the problem when you start taking on art jobs is those don't leave you enough creativity left over to work on your graphic novel either. They don't
Yeah.
crush your soul, but they do crush your, you have limited creative reserves, like
Yep.
fuel, and you'll use them all up on doing a children's book or doing like an underbunks freelance job, right? Which
It's true. I mean, like it's not a small thing
yeah,
to do illustration, either the one that you want to do, graphic novels or whatever you want to get into, or doing a commercial job for somebody else. It is a ton of work. And to think that you're going to reiterate Jake's point, to think that that's going to be the bread and butter job, which is art. Most people want that just to be the job, not the
yeah.
bread and butter job. And so it's just, you're all in on whichever one you pick anyway. So you might as well just stay, like Jake said, do the work that you want to do, have something on the side. I tell you, man, I again, going back to my high school, early college days, driving for a living, if I had to do that in Mabel's position right there, I would go straight back to like an Uber or a pizza delivery guy as my base income. And because you do not want to muddy the waters of what the art is that you're making.
Mhm. Yeah, I've said for a long time, like I would just go back to a grocery store, like where I worked in high school and college, and then just do art later on in the day, just because it's two totally different things. And I don't know.
If you're going to have the bread and butter job, don't you want that job to be the absolute most chill, non-thinking,
Yeah.
like I'm here, I'm doing the most menial task that I can. That's what I liked about driving, is like you're just really driving around listening to music. Here's your pizza. Give me my money.
Cranking out dog biscuits.
Yeah.
No, but that would be too monotonous. So you got to
Okay.
find something that fits your personality.
I
Like,
tell you, I would love to work at a bookstore.
oh, is
Yeah.
that the one for you?
I think that would be a lot of
Oh,
fun.
you're not wrong. You get to see everything that's coming out. You
Yeah,
get,
I think
get
that would
inspired.
be, honestly, I think that would be the good job to balance with wanting to get into comics, because you
I
could
love that.
you know what sells, you know what
Sure.
kids are coming in to buy or what adults are coming in to buy. You just have your finger right on the pulse.
Mabel,
Mhm.
what is your, if you can share this, you don't have to. What is your soul crushing job?
Mabel had to run to go pick up the kids, so I'm not sure if she's going to respond right away.
Her soul crushing job is stay at home mom.
Yeah. What I will say
What is it?
tactically, I think this is one of the biggest issues with the folks that we work with in the SVS community, and I think just the larger creative community, is we all want to have like these big home run comic books, illustration jobs, picture book jobs where we've got 15 books in a series and they're all 1,000 pages. I think everyone just has to be reminded to start small, to work in short stories, in short little bursts, and build up to those really big projects that are going to be transformative for your life. It's like Jeff Smith, who I think we're all a big fan of, that did Bone and Wrestle and other projects, didn't start just with Bone. He worked for a bunch of years on a daily comic and was just putting out product every single day. And I think we want to go for like the big 128 page graphic novel, because that's what editors and agents and things like that are going to look for. But I think we have to really look at, especially in comics and graphic novels, that like a series of 2-page stories or being part of comic anthologies, because we need to start a project, we need to finish a project, we need to be able to get feedback on it, but then put it away and move on to the next one. We got to go quick. Because as you're learning, like really putting together a big graphic novel, especially if it's the first big project that somebody's done, by the time you get to page 128, your art style is going to be so dramatically different, and you've learned so much different stuff. You're going to be really unhappy with all of those pages that you started making 1 through 127. So I really, really, really believe in anthologies, short comics, daily comics, and then building up the momentum, and then putting out that big project down the road.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
really good. And Mariana posted that, circling back to Brandon Sanderson, he often says how he took a night shift as a security or a receptionist, just something so that he wouldn't drain his writing energy, and it's something he could actually write while he was at work. You know,
Oh, that's a good point.
but I do want to be. I made a joke that stay-at-home mom could be soul crushing, and I just want to make it clear that I do not think that's soul crushing. I think it's maybe the most important job in the world.
Can we add in like a little violin song at the like over
Honestly,
top of
He
that?
just doesn't want to get yelled at.
He just doesn't want to get yelled at. But I agree with you, because my wife is going through it right now.
Yeah,
And we have
I mean,
we have a brand new puppy. It's like
it's
every kid has
thankless.
2 things after school every single day.
Right.
And it is really thankless. Yeah, you're totally
It's
right.
thankless, but it's also like, I have 5 beautiful children, 3 of which are adults now, who are out in the world and literally know how to put their pants on by themselves because my wife taught them that 20 years ago. Like, imagine them still not being able to put on their pants at this age. How
That would really grind my grits, to be honest, if there's just a bunch of Parker adults walking around without pants on.
but that is a symbol of, like, they're very highly engaged, very thoughtful, just good people who know how to think and know how to exist and live in the world. Because my wife didn't like phone it in. She's like, here's how you read, here's how you interact with people, just all that stuff. Anyways, let's go back to the questions. What do we got? Jake now. Jake Crow says, I'm curious how deep any of you have gotten into AI, not as an art resource, but as an organizational tool, or / project manager, or any other discoveries you have made.
I'll just speak for myself while Lee's forming his thoughts. I'm not really using any of it. I really need a personal touch, so I work with a consultancy group out of Europe for a whole bunch of different stuff, and I have just found that for me, for how I operate, that is just much more effective. I like the human touch. I do have a subscription to Grammarly, which I probably don't need. And Grammarly helps like tighten up some of the writing that I do for like emails, and just like sometimes simplifies things, but I don't use any of the generative AI features on it. I don't know. It's just not for me. So I'm not using any of it at the moment.
I use it just like as a research kind of tool. Like I don't ask AI to ever make something for me, but like, for example, I was looking for winter tires, going back to our car conversation, and I'll use like Chat GPT as a, hey, which of these tires gets the best review? It's just a great compiler of information. I don't want it making a recommendation to me, but it's a great compiler of data, and then I can make the call, because I don't trust it actually to give me correct. If I asked it what the best one is, I don't trust it.
Years ago, I dived into Midjourney just to see what, I wanted to be stabbed in the front, not in the back, by AI. So
I love that saying. That's great.
Jake,
so I dug into it just to see what it could do, and found that it was the most inconvenient way to make an illustration in the world.
It would probably take longer, I would think, if you're used to making real illustrations and you don't have anything.
It was so frustrating.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, there was like an hour there where I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." Like, wow, it almost like playing I had the same feeling I had playing a video game, where I would get these little bursts of like, "Ooh, that was neat. Ooh, that was cool." But then after a while, it just was like, I am wasting time. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys get that feeling, right?
You're spinning your wheels. So I recently wrapped up like our next card deck for the chaotic draw
Hmm.
along, and so I have a big spreadsheet with all of the prompts on it, and it's a super meticulous spreadsheet, and a lot of people have access to it that are helping me. And Gemini, Google has Google Gemini built into their browser, of which where this spreadsheet was living. So I clicked on Gemini and was like, "Hey, is there any chance that you could look at this screen and just proofread it for me?" And I tell you, over the course of 30 minutes, that AI chatbot did absolutely nothing but give me incorrect answers and look at the wrong cells and corrected grammar that didn't need to be corrected. I just wasted 30 minutes, and by the end of it, I was so frustrated. I closed the browser, walked out, went outside, threw the football with my son. Like I just
I
was
tell you
infuriated with it.
what I'm amazed at and a little bit shocked at is that after, it's been around for a little while now, right? 2 years, I guess it's been going through all its generations. I think I can spot it a mile away.
Yeah.
And I didn't think
Even
you would. I thought, oh, it's going to get better. And it's going to be integrated, and we won't be able to tell who's making what. Man, you can tell. Even the writing, you can tell. I gotta out my son. He actually turned in a school paper, and his friend was like, "Just use AI." And so he's like, Emerson, my son is like, "What?" And he's like, "You says, oh, this is an easy way to do it." And then the teacher sent us that paper he wrote. There was words in there like hence. My son will never use the word hence. Or like here for two, like all these.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've noticed in that kind of writing is like it says, it does not only this, but also this. It like phrases things in that way. Not only am I a good thinker, but I am also really responsible. Like,
Yeah.
those kind of things. And it just it's very predictable on sort of the look that it has. Even stuff that I can tell on Instagram that people are trying to sort of pass off, you can spot it. I mean, you can spot it.
I do like ChatGPT as like a research assistant slash editor, almost like you would call up an editor and be like, here's my idea. Here's the path I want to go down. What are some things that would that I could reference to make this better, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just read some of my chats, the titles of them. So like today, one's titled Notebook Organization Tips. And so the prompt I asked it was, how best would you organize a notebook on writing tips? Like what sections should it have? I'm thinking story structure, plot theme, character arcs, character development, inner drive, outer motivation, history, design, world building, etc. And I said, I listen to a lot of videos on writing advice, and I'd like to organize my notes so that they're easy to go back to and find instead of having the notebook be like a hodgepodge of stuff to learn at random times. That's the prompt I put into it. And it came back and said, well, you could organize it like this. This is a good way to do it. I didn't really like what it provided. So I said, how would you do this if it was a bullet journal? Because there's a lot of documentation online of how to do bullet journal stuff. And when it came back, it's like, oh yeah, you want to do a bullet journal style. Here's what you would do. And that was super helpful to like explain how I would organize a notebook, not for journaling, but for like recording notes on like writing stories. So that's one example.
That's exactly right. I used it to optimize my schedule because I come up with a schedule. Like I want to paint for X hours a day. I want to paint for 5 hours a day. I have to do admin, and I'd like to exercise twice a day. I need to walk my dog at these specific times. Give me a schedule, and it just gives you a great starting point as long as you provide it with all the stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'll read one more prompt, and then I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
This is another one. It's titled Reading as a Writer. So I said, say I wanted to write a fantasy book or graphic novel, and say I felt like I needed to get a better idea of the genre. Then let's say I made a list of books to read. What is the best way to read them in a way that satisfies my need to learn and analyze them for the purpose of understanding conventions, tropes of the genre, and what rules to keep and what rules to break when writing my own story. Can you base your answer on common wisdom in the practice of writing, perhaps leaning on what other authors do? And so then it gave me a list of step 1, read like a writer, not a reader. And here's like all the things that you should do as you're reading. So this is kind of how I'm going in and using it. It'd be like, and then give me a list of books I should read, like the top books of the different genres of fantasy. And so it gives me a list of the books that I should read. And then I have another one that's like, break down my mortgage payment for me. Here's all the numbers. It's like, so that's kind of where I'm at with this. If I have a question like, say I wanted to write a story that was a heist story, I would be like, okay, what are all the heist tropes? Just so I can know what those are. And in a way, I will say this caveat, in a way, it makes it easier to get that information, obviously. Like it saves me time hunting all of it down, but that information does not stick as well as if I spent an afternoon hunting all that information down myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the problem with it, is you get so much, you just grow so much more when you do the work yourself.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, I think
Sort of.
sometimes it can come, like I said about the snow tire. I don't want to do that work myself.
Exactly.
That's exactly where I want
Exactly.
it to combine it all, because then I'm getting sent to YouTube links. I don't know, the difference between somebody who's a pro recommending one of these things over the other, or just some rando YouTuber, and so it helps compile just all that stuff and gets to a decision quick, because like we're talking about, the idea of making work takes a long time. I don't want to spend my time doing this other stuff if I can get through it quicker.
I obviously have a lot of concerns about AI, and I think the three of us have kids. Jake has 3 pantsless adult children.
Well, they actually do the pants thing.
Okay. The thing that I'm becoming more concerned about here in the upcoming future is that because I don't see anything wrong from the organizational project management to have something side by side to help make sure that you're hitting the beats that you need to hit. And for like my product business, it would be very helpful. The one thing I'm starting to become wary of is that these big research labs, inclusive of Google, they need to monetize this product. OpenAI specifically with ChatGPT is burning through money at a rate that we will never be able to process as humans and understand. And so what they will start to do is add advertisements advertisements into their product. So then this AI will start building a relationship with somebody and will make a snow tire recommendation. But at a certain point, it will be based on advertising spent. And so that recommendation isn't based on all of the perfect data that's out there. It's based on the ad spend.
That's true.
And I think that is going to be a really rough thing for us to ruin it.
And I'll be like, what are the fantasy books I need to read? And it's going to be like, well, you should definitely read this one because
but it'll be sponsored. Oh my gosh, that is a nightmare.
ChatGPT $1 million to promote it on ChatGPT.
Well, that goes back to the idea. If you guys saw The Social Network, they were like, if you don't see an actual product being sold, it's you. Like, so it's they're just hiding the sales with those I just can't stand that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's so tricky, right?
The other big problem is just the energy usage for it.
I don't understand that part. Why does it take so much energy for the computer to compute?
Oh, because think about how much energy your one computer uses to do everything you got to do in a day, right? And say it's running Photoshop, and you know how you can hear the fan go in, and there's like a really big thing. These data centers that they are building to do this stuff are basically literally Facebook is building one the size of Manhattan Island.
What?
Front to back, full of computers.
You're lying.
No, I'm not lying.
Jake
I've seen these videos of this small town that they're like,
that was AI.
It's destroying Right. And then to cool all these computers, they need water,
It's
right?
water. Yeah, water is going to become clean, usable water that can cool these things will become one of the biggest issues of our lifetime. They're going to have to figure out how to make these chips uh, coolable on their not on their own, but in a much easier state. And then until then, yeah, we're going to be burning up rivers and lakes
Yeah.
left and
The
right.
only
So
cool
you can
chips
find
I
out about
want are
tires.
Doritos Ranch ones.
Speaking of which, we're sponsored by. Let's do another question, Jake. There's a couple of really good questions from the chat here at
Too many
SVS.
grit grinding questions today.
These are good. These are good questions.
Yeah.
Speaking of the quick hidden ads, my son has been noticing all the product placements in movies lately, and it's gotten almost ridiculous on some of them.
You know what? You want to know something? Show your kid a movie that was made prior to 2010. We showed our kids The Fugitive the other night, which was 93.
Now, you guys
I
are
think.
talking about that, yeah.
So
They
good.
were glued to the screen. They were like, oh my gosh, what my daughter at first, she's 15. She's like, you guys watch it without me. That's fine. We get about 10 minutes into it. She hears the train wreck happen and she's like, oh, what's going on? She comes in. She's like, why is he handcuffed? Why is this? And then we paused it, did a quick explanation to get her up to speed. And then at the very end, she's like, the whole time they're just like, but it was a one-armed man, like.
And it is truly one of the 5-star movies.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Don't give anything away.
I won't, but I mean that's from the very beginning. But the thing, just a little tangent here. The thing with older movies are they're not formulaic. They're a little bit more.
Yeah.
They're just a little bit more interesting. Like in that regard, because so many of the movies kids watch today are like, oh, we know it works. It's a franchise thing. And we're going to have 5 other characters from a different movie come into this so they can have to go watch those other movies to happen. And then 2, back then, anything that you see on the screen was something that was filmed, whether it was a model or whether it was something they actually went on site to do it. You watch The Fugitive and you're like, oh my gosh, there's not a single green screen background in that entire thing. And it feels it like you were literally in Chicago and you're literally in the inner workings of the dam where he jumps off the thing. So that's another thing where the kids just are like, they just know it's real and it's not blue screen, green screen, whatever. So
right. I saw this great interview with what's his name from what movie was he in? The Departed. Matt Damon. And he was talking about that, how movies have changed just in that same time period. That before, like basically the audience doesn't have enough patience or time, and the studio doesn't have enough sort of time to introduce a new concept. So they can't. So like this idea of Matt Damon in a romantic comedy with 2 characters that have never been seen before. Is too much money to advertise that to just the general population. So that's why you're seeing X-Men 55 and all these franchise and already identifiable franchises because they just don't have the budget to introduce you to somebody new to get you on board for this storytelling that takes place in a slower way.
Also, the other thing is everything is being written now for second screen viewing. That's the notes that that the executives are getting. Do you know what that means? It means that people have to be able to understand what's going on while they're on their phone on TikTok while the movie's playing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you watched the most recent, like, I don't know, any most recent thing that's come out is most likely had notes like, oh, you need to explain this better because it's a second screen viewing. The thing that really got me, it stuck out for me, was the last Mission Impossible, where a character would be like, you mean we have to go down that tunnel and hook up the harness in order to get the device, and that's what we have to do? Yeah, what I mean is we have to go down that tunnel to get the device. Someone else will walk in and be like, don't tell me you guys are going down that tunnel to get the device and hook up the harness. I'm just like, get on with it. Please.
Tell, don't show.
Do it.
Right.
All right. Next question. Are we guys?
We sure can ramble.
These questions, or
we went all over the place with that.
Okay,
You can
you
learn
answered
more.
where we get the cards printed. Kristen says, by this point in my illustration journey, I feel like I know quite a bit about finding clients and publishing, but I've recently been wondering about looking for other clients who hire illustrators. Do you have any advice on how to find these clients or how to attract them? My current portfolio is very specific for children's books. Can a children's book portfolio serve to draw in other clients as well? Or do you need to make sure to include project specific art? I'm thinking along the lines of things like pizzas, puzzles, games, greeting cards, clothing, textiles, website art, etc.
I I'd love to take a stab at this.
Stab
And
away.
Stab it.
so I think, especially based on the amount of emails that I've not gotten in this last year, I think we have no time to just wait around hoping that these things are going to be delivered to us.
Mhm,
The opportunities just don't pop up as much as they used to. There used to just be so many like random opportunities for things, and they were easy to turn down.
mhm,
Now that flow has definitely really slowed down for me in this last year. The best that I have ever felt was when I really wanted to take control of my picture book making along with my agent. Is I went on Instagram and I started making connections with editors, art directors, people within the space, and really started striking up conversations with those people. Not in a way to get a job, but I really just wanted to I wanted to put myself out there in a very real way, and the amount of opportunities that I got out of that were incredible, and a bunch of really good, high-paying work.
yeah,
I think that if this is where somebody wants to go, I think you take the bull by the horns and you start reaching out to those companies. I would not worry about making a portfolio that fits everything. I
mhm,
would start reaching out to the places that you're interested in and start striking up conversations with the folks on the inside, and then showing what you can do to take things off of their plate. Every business owner wants to have their lives a little bit easier. I recently took on an unpaid intern, and this person reached out to me and they said, I have my career isn't exactly where I want it to be. I'm not finding the kind of opportunities. Is there any way that we could work together for a couple of months? I can learn from you. I can give you a whole bunch of horsepower. And I turned it down. And then I ultimately was like, well, actually, no, let's do that. That sounds really good to me. And look, that person took a bunch of the pain off of my plate, and I have a ton of it right now. That is what business owners, companies, art directors, that's what people need. So if you reach out and say, I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. I noticed that you're doing X, Y, and Z. How about I do X, Y, and Z for you? I bet you're going to get more favorable responses than not. I really do.
I'm gonna push back a tad bit on
Do
that.
it, baby. Do it.
Pushing you back. I think if it's what you're really talking about is licensing in some way, whether you're selling just an individual product or a pattern or something like that, those are fairly easy to create. Or even going into like book covers or something like that, where it's standalone image. It's not a graphic novel where you are doing 100 images or even 32 pages for a picture book. Standalone images. If that's where you want to go, I would definitely, to get the buyer interested, show them what you can do just with one or two. Like, here's a greeting card that I came up with. It's for a birthday.
Oh,
Birthday is
sure.
the number one greeting card, which, by the way, that's the only card I don't have, but it's the
typical.
number one, followed by wedding announcements and stuff like that. That's two, tied sort of with Christmas cards. And so probably doing just a little bit of research depending on which ones you want to
Yeah.
get into. I do agree with what you're saying about reaching out to them and, finding. I love going to independent paper stores where they sell loose leaf paper, cards, journals, all that stuff. And then I just buy the cards that I like and I look to see who's making them and I reach out to them. And I've signed with a number of licensing deals by doing that, just reaching out. But I do think you got to have something to sort of tickle their fancy.
Yeah, I mean, for 1000%. Like when this person reached out to me to say, "Can we work together for the next couple of months?" I then said, "Here's the three things that we need, or I need, take off my plate. Show me some examples," and they did. And
Perfect.
then I was like, "Boom, let's do it. Let's make it happen." You know?
I want to throw out one other thing, and that is reach out to people like us or other artist friends and just say like, hey, is there any jobs you said no to because you didn't have time? or are there any jobs that you really enjoyed working on that you could just send me the art director if you'd be comfortable with that, think that my stuff would work for that. Recently, I've been doing that. Like the girl I sat next to at New York Comic Con, we were talking. And she was looking at my website because we were like sharing art and stuff. And she was like, "Oh, you've done Lorcana cards." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, I really want to do that." And I'm like, "You'd be great for it. You should definitely do that." She's like, "I don't know where to start." I said, "Well, I have the art director's email address. I'll just hand it to you and go for it." Right. Same thing with another guy reached out. He's like, "Hey, I want to do cards and I was like, "Well, here's these art directors I've worked with. If your stuff's good and you reach out to me, and I think the art directors are always looking for quality, competent illustrators. And so you're doing them a favor, cold emailing them and saying, "Hey, I'm available."
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, they want to have good work, right? And if you're the
and
perfect
if you need
match.
leads, just go ask your friends who are getting work. Like the Underbunks thing, I'm sure if they, I brought them up earlier before. That was just a job that landed in our laps out of the blue. Did they email us all at the same time?
No, you and Will did it a year before I did.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And so they're just like,
I wanted to
going
follow up
through.
with them and see how those sold because that was such a cool, innovative. They just reminded me of Shark Tank, sort of with
Yeah.
that product of designing graphics for the underside of bunk beds. It's so cool.
So
I would have
niche.
loved
but
that as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope
Totally.
they're doing good.
Hey,
All right.
can I ask one question? Just
Yeah.
because of the Underbunks thing made me think of it. So I did Underbunks last year. I don't do a ton of.
You have to submit the question to our Q&A section.
Luckily, I got a direct in with this old microphone here. My question is, so I don't do a ton of standalone jobs like the Underbunks or the thing I did,
Mhm.
that high tech job, but both of them sort of fell under the same general nature where the client is saying, "Hey, I want to hire you to do an illustration." Then you're like, "Okay, cool, let's do an illustration." And then typically they throw out a number and you either agree to that or not. And then they get into the really nitty gritty of the specs. And what both of those companies wanted was one illustration with really 10 to 20 illustrations
Little
inside that
vignettes.
one illustration.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. I always say I'm doing this job for the next job as I get annoyed while I'm doing all these little scenes that are essentially standalone illustrations. They just happen to be part of the bigger illustration.
Yeah.
Does that need to be talked about before? Would you looking back on a job like that or seeing me go through the iterations that I've done for these jobs, budget that differently?
I think you need to see you need to see up front like examples of what they're thinking, just so that, like, Underbunks came in and they're like, "Here's samples. We need this sort of thing." So we knew exactly what they were wanting. I think the thing with that is until you get into it, you don't realize that you're doing 5 illustrations for the price
Or
of
more.
one.
I mean,
More.
more.
Right.
And they're all detailed. Like they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we want to really be able to zoom in." And under the case of Underbunks, the whole thing is like 6 or 7 feet long, and
Yeah.
so they want little air. Here's the phrase to be worried about: individual areas of interest. That's what both these small little things, but it needs to work in the overall scene. And I just, again, I didn't say anything to either of the clients. I loved working with them, and I want. Again, my question is, if they came back to me and said, "Hey, we love what you did this first time, want to hire you again," what would I say?
I think for Underbunks, that's just their budget, and
That's just what they do. Yeah, I
take
mean,
it or
that's
leave
always,
it.
yeah.
But for the company that you did the illustration for, that I think their quarterly returns was somewhere in the range of $50 billion, literally.
I have some money.
Yeah. You can come back to them and say, "I don't know what your budget is for marketing," which I'm sure this falls under, but you got to come with a little bit more to the table, please.
Yeah, I think all of that, I mean, it just has to be an individual case by case basis. And I think depending on the vibe that you start to get from these companies is like going to dictate if you can push back on their payment.
I would say too, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to pay the bills, right? but there are other ways to get more out of a job. Like with the Underbugs people, these are a couple of people who were doing a startup, right? So I was like, can I just talk to you guys about launching a startup from your perspective, as business owners? And so we had a nice little chat about what they're doing. And that to me was valuable insight you can't put a monetary number on it. And so it might be the same with, I would almost like, let's say you get hired by a writer to do illustrations for one of their books, and you may have interests in writing yourself. You're an illustrator and you never have written before and you want to write. You might say, hey, listen, I'll do this job for the price. It's a little low, but I would also like an hour Zoom call with you where you give me writing advice. And they might be like, heck yeah, I'll do that. You just got to be a little creative with some of these things. Deborah asks, to Mabel's question, isn't there options out there to create comics or graphic style illustrations for magazines? That's sort of a dying thing.
It's definitely not bread and butter money.
Yeah. Yep.
I was part of a comics magazine, or I am part of a comics magazine called Hullabaloo. And it's a comics anthology for kids. And this guy, Joshua Smeaton, and I think he had a partner also named Joshua. It's like a whole bunch of Joshuas launched this project. And it's an uphill battle. Like, they're doing really good with it, but they've got to build a big audience for it. I think the biggest version of that is the Phoenix magazine in the UK that's super well established and has been running for years. Things like that are certainly viable, but does that work happen in this like land in your lap on a regular basis?
Yeah.
And the answer is probably not. Probably not.
The anthologies are not. It's not paying work. No anthology makes any amount of money. And if it does, it's divided between, instead of an author and an illustrator, it's between 20 people, right? So essentially what your anthology work is going to be is training for you to sharpen your saw, or not sharpen your blade,
sharpen your grits.
Grind your grits.
Sharpen your grit grinder. And and it's to get your kind of people aware of what you're capable of, right? Mariana asks, how do you find anthologies for comics to participate in? I would just go introduce yourself. This is kind of a theme of this episode, is like getting out of your comfort zone and introduce yourself to people. Find every comic anthologies that's been kickstarted or published.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Look at the editor, find out who the editor is, find out their contact info, their DM or their email or something, and just introduce yourself and say, hey, next time you do a comic, or if you hear of one being made and someone's like looking for people, I'm available and I would love to do it. And here's my portfolio. That's how I got into I think I've had my stuff in 5-6 different anthologies, something like that, before I ever did a graphic novel.
Yeah, it's a really good training ground, right?
Yeah.
I also think just making
we should do one.
No, I'm going to put a kibosh on it right now. Nope, absolutely not.
Why?
None of us have time.
We've got time.
None of us have time.
Let's just talk about it and never get around to it.
That's all we do.
Anthologies are for the kids. You're too old to do that, Lee.
I like group projects. I'm just going to throw it out there. I like it. I think it's fun.
I know, because you're the guy that shows up on the last day and says, okay, I'm ready.
What are we doing here?
Just kidding.
No, you're right.
Lee and Anthony, we're almost done. Okay, one more question, then we'll finish. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Is it possible to make a career for myself in art without having a strong social media presence? I don't have any social media currently, and I don't necessarily want to have it, but it seems pretty necessary for getting noticed and for getting job offers. Any thoughts? Sydney has not heard Sam Cotterill talk about this in the first 2 interviews we had with her before she became a co-host. Those were focused directly on this thing, because Sam does not have a social media presence at all, and she's a very successful children's book author. And it goes back to this theme of what we're talking about, where you have to make the relationships with the people who are going to hire you for the projects that you want to do. So let's see, a career, make a career in art. You didn't specify what lane of art you want to be in, but we'll pick children's books. Okay. Um, um, in children's books, there's maybe 50 to 100 editors that are that kind of do the children's book thing for bigger publishers. Would you say? Is there more than that? 200 maybe? I don't
Yeah.
know. There's not a lot of them, and all you got to do is go to Barnes and Noble for an afternoon and go to the copyright page and just read who was the editor on it and who was the publisher, and make a list of all these people, and they're going to be your hit list. And instead of an assassination, you're going to send them a letter that says, "I'm available for work."
I thought we weren't wading into weird waters.
You're going to kill them with your amazing work.
Oh, okay, there it is.
That's what I'm trying to say. I
Yep.
chose the wrong word, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course.
You're going to make a relationship, just like Anthony was saying earlier, like we've been telling you, and it still takes a little bit of work, but you don't, man, it's probably way more rewarding than just posting online all the time, hoping, one of them. Okay, I got a good analogy. Sydney says character design is what I'd love to do. Okay, so you're not going to go to Barnes and Noble. What you're going to go do is find the art directors.
Yeah, you don't need social media for it.
Yep. So you're going to look at the credits. You're going to go to LinkedIn probably and look at who are the art directors and producers on animated TV shows, video games, probably more likely video games, because animation industry right now is like in turmoil, and it's not stable from what I've heard from many people. But video games is there's it's just a little bit more stabler than that. But yeah, so you're gonna target these people. Social media is like you are just casting you're casting your worm into, or what is this, the fishing pole, you're casting your pole into the sea, and you're just winding it up, and you're seeing who you can catch. And every day you're just catching a few likes and a few comments, and sometimes it might be an art director and sometimes it might be an editor. But this method that we're telling you is, you have a bow, you have some arrows in your quiver, and you're looking at the tracks in the pathways, and you're sniffing the air, and you find a little bit of fur that's like caught in some bark, and you're like sniffing it, and you're like, yep, that's what I'm after.
We are going deep into this tracking.
And pretty
It's so
soon
good. It's so good.
you
Keep
see
going.
over in the woods, you see a shadow lurking, and so you knock your arrow,
Mm-hmm.
you pull it back,
Yep.
and you see that art director right there in your sights.
No. I think your analogy is a little
Oh,
strange.
you see a elk,
Yes, thank
full
you.
antlers in your sights, and you're just lining up, and you're waiting for it to come right in your path, and you take a breath, release, exhale, and that arrow flies true and straight, and it gets him right in the heart. And man, next thing you know, you're doing character design for Borderlands 5.
Dude, you just told the entire plot of the movie Jeremiah Johnson from 1973 with Robert Redford, and then incorporated into character design. That's one of the craziest things. That's
And with
unreal.
that, guys, we're calling it. We're wrapping
Let's
it.
call it a day.
Unbelievable.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLEARN, where your mom can't be the only one who loves your art. You got to make your art better so that these art directors are way into it. I just want
And
What
then,
was that?
And then
And
the
then he
dude's
bailed?
gone.
Okay. And
This
with that,
I'm back.
What happened?
I'm
like
back.
none of this is getting edited, and we're not going to put any context for
No
people in their car.
What happened there? Okay. I just want to get. What did I leave on? What was the last thing I said?
You said your mom can't be the only one who likes your art.
Okay. I just want to give a shout out to our team here. who helped make this whole thing possible. First off, to our co-hosts here, Lee, myself, and Anthony, and then to the rest of the team, Daniel too, our podcast producer, Preston Smith, our team manager, Austin Shirtliff, our keeper of the community, Lily Howell, our show notes wrangler, Lisa Fott, our chief operations officer, and Annalise Black, our illustrator. Now, everybody, go draw something.